The upsets continued in week 8. How about week 9? Who is on upset alert? Let's jump right into it. But first, actually, before we go to this week, the 3 upsets from the video last week. And again, I think every week this year, we've had at least 2 upsets. And on average, historically, we've had 2 of the 8 games be upsets. But this year, it's been 2 or more every single week. There might have been one week where it was 1. But for the most part, it's been 2 or 3 every week. And again, we had 3 this past week, and I even missed a couple of them, like Arizona State, Utah. Arizona State versus Texas Tech. I did not have that one on there. I didn't have, we didn't have Memphis UAB, even though I did talk about that in my expectations video. I didn't have it on the upset alert video. I didn't think it was one of the 8 most likely. But yeah, last week we saw 2 Friday night upsets. That's another thing that was on the expectations video. I said there would be a big upset on Friday night. Didn't expect 2 of them. We saw Miami go down to Louisville, and then we saw Nebraska lose to Minnesota. And then the other was SMU defeating Clemson. Now, I didn't know that Cade Klubnik was going to be out in that game, or I would have probably had it up there. Well, actually, I had it as the second most likely upset anyways. But yeah, I probably would have picked SMU if I had known that. So yeah, we had 3 last week. And again, if you're new here, we're looking at games where the point spread is more than a field goal. That's what it has to be considered an upset. And we're picking the 8 games that we think are most likely to be upsets. And like I just said, historically, 2 of the 8 games on average do turn out to be upsets. So it's just a matter of picking the 2. And then again, maybe there'll be one that we don't even talk about that could be a big upset. So let's go to we're going from least likely to most likely. This one right here is interesting. South Florida versus Memphis. This game is at 12 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. This is a huge game in the American Conference. You feel like the winner here is a pretty good bet to get to the American Championship game. Memphis coming off of that loss, though, they really need this one. South Florida, on the other hand, they might be okay because even if they lose, because their loss right now is a non-conference game. But still, this is a really, really big game. You still got Tulane, you've got Navy, you've got other teams out there in this conference that could make a run. So huge game here. South Florida favored by 5.5 on the road. Starting quarterback for Memphis knocked out last week. Still not 100% sure if he's going to be playing this week. That is really big, obviously, because I believe it was a true freshman that came in there that they would have to lean on. So if he doesn't play, you feel pretty good about South Florida, but if he does play, Memphis is a good team. I mean, we've seen them beat Arkansas. This is a pretty good team. They're playing at home. So this is absolutely one that could be an upset, but I think it really depends on, again, having your starting quarterback if you're Memphis. Next, we go to Tennessee and Kentucky. This one's at 7:45 Eastern time on the SEC Network. Tennessee favored by 9.5 on the road. Kentucky has played pretty well at times. The Texas game last week. You go back to the Ole Miss game, had a chance in that one, and then other times they haven't looked great, but they're due for a win. They're playing at home. Tennessee is coming off of a tough loss to Alabama. Where is their mindset going to be now? They've lost 2 games. Maybe they're a little beat up from that game. It's I guess it's a rivalry. I don't know how big of a rivalry you want to call this, but it is a rivalry. So yeah, this is just one where if Kentucky comes out and plays desperate, if Tennessee has a little bit of a hangover from that game against Alabama, perhaps we see an upset in this one. So I think that's one to watch out for. Next, we've got Alabama at South Carolina, 3:30 Eastern time on ABC. Alabama favored by 12.5. South Carolina has not looked great, but it's kind of the same thing that I just mentioned with Kentucky. They're due for a win. They're desperate for a win. Lenore Sellers, I said it preseason, there will be a game that he just kind of takes over and he wills his team to victory. Haven't seen that yet. He's been, actually I was looking at some numbers, he's been sacked. Like, South Carolina is near the bottom of the country in terms of giving up sacks, which is surprising when you've got a running quarterback like that. So that is surprising, but the run game for South Carolina will be big. Alabama, if they have a weakness, it's their run defense. We've seen that at times. So if South Carolina can get the run game going, and they've got a pretty good pass rush, if they can get to Ty Simpson, that's really the only way you're going to slow down this Alabama offense. But I just look at this matchup and think that South Carolina has a chance. It's, I wouldn't pick them to win, but that's a tough place to play. If they come out and play desperate, if Alabama comes into this game thinking, we're gonna roll here, if they come out like they did against Florida State, and also they're coming off of a big rivalry win. I just think there are the ingredients. If there's a big upset, this might be that game. Again, I'm still would probably pick Alabama here, but This is definitely one to watch. Next, we've got Ole Miss at Oklahoma. This one's at noon Eastern time on ABC. Oklahoma favored by 5.5. With Ole Miss, man, when you watch them against Georgia, when they execute and their offensive line takes care of business, that offense it's impossible to stop. I mean, I think Lane Kiffin definitely top 5 in terms of play callers in all of college football. Again, his schemes work if they execute and if the offensive line can hold up. The offensive line could not hold up in the fourth quarter, and Georgia's defense started dominating that game. Oklahoma has, I think, a better defense than Georgia, so that worries me if I'm an Ole Miss fan. So yeah, this one it's a little bit tricky seeing how the upset can happen, but if they execute and if their offensive line can handle this Oklahoma defensive front, and Oklahoma's offense has bogged down at times this year, so if Ole Miss's defense can play better than maybe they have so far this season, I think it'll be a close game. And so, one of those breaks, a special teams touchdown, a pick six, something like that could swing this game towards Ole Miss. So again, I think it comes down to how on is the Oklahoma offense, because if it's on and John Mateer's playing great, I don't really see them winning this game. But if it's not and Ole Miss can protect up front, then yeah, I could see Ole Miss pulling off an upset here. And the spread's only 5.5, so obviously this could be an upset. Next, we've got NC State at Pittsburgh, 3:30 Eastern time on the ACC network. Pitt's favored by 6.5. I just feel like this is two pretty even teams. I know Pitt has made the change of quarterback; they've been playing a lot better. They're playing at home here. NC State's a quality football team. Again, this is just one I could see going either way. I think it'll be close, and just like I mentioned, one play could swing it. A special teams touchdown, a defensive touchdown, something like that could potentially cause the upset here for NC State. All right, next we've got Illinois at Washington, 3:30 Eastern time on the Big Ten Network. Washington favored by 4.5. If they play like they did against Michigan, it's hard to see them winning this game. Illinois, man, they've been up and down this year. Like, these are two teams that at times have looked really good, like potentially top 15 teams, and then other times they haven't even looked like top 25 teams. So I don't know what to expect in this game, and because of that, again, yeah, obviously we could see an upset. This is another one of those toss-up type games. It should be a good one. I hate that, this is on the Big, I get the Big Ten Network, but it feels like this game should be on, like, which I guess, I don't know where you'd put it, because if it's not going to go on Fox, maybe FS1 or something, or maybe this should have been the CBS game or the NBC game. This to me is probably going to be a more competitive game than Michigan State, but of course it's all about eyeballs. And anyways, that's a game, sneaky game that maybe you didn't think about watching, that probably is going to be a really good game. And then we've got Baylor Cincinnati. This one is at 4 o'clock Eastern time on ESPN2. Cincinnati favored by 4.5. Coming into this season, you would have probably said Baylor would be a better football team than Cincinnati. Cincinnati's found a way to win some games, but they haven't played the toughest schedule. Baylor's played a really tough schedule, and that's why they've got 3 losses. So I don't know that Cincinnati's a better team than Baylor. I know they've been able to win more games, obviously, but I think this is a pretty even matchup. Like, if this was at Baylor, I would take Baylor. Playing at Cincinnati, now it's more of a toss-up game for me. I think it'll be a good one, but I think Baylor is good enough that they could possibly pull off the upset here. And then finally, we've got Texas at Mississippi State. This one's at 4:15 Eastern time on the SEC Network. Texas favored by 7. I think this could very well be an upset here. Mississippi State, we've seen enough out of them to know this is a quality team this year. They're much improved from where they were last year. The cowbells will be out. The crowd will be loud. They're going to be desperate for a win after these, a couple of tough losses. I think they have a really good shot here. And then Texas, on the other hand, that offense has just really struggled at times. I thought maybe they started to kind of come together against Oklahoma, and then against Kentucky they looked terrible again. Their defense is obviously really good. So yeah, I just think, can Texas score enough on offense, or can their defense shut down Mississippi State enough to get this win? To me, this is more of a toss-up type game. I don't like Texas being favored by 7. I know it's the name brand and all that, but when I've watched these teams this year, I can't tell you, other than the Texas-Oklahoma game, I wouldn't say that Texas was a better football team than Mississippi State from what I've seen this year. Again, they had that one really good game, but John Mateer was injured and all of that. So I think this is going to be a great game. Another sneaky game. This one's on the SEC Network. This should be like this should probably be an ABC game. Although there are several big games in the SEC this year, or this week. But still, I just think this could potentially be an upset, and I think it's actually the most likely big upset here in week number 9. So give me your thoughts on these games. Could you see another one? Maybe it's Northwestern going out there and pulling off an upset against Nebraska, or maybe Michigan State shocks Michigan. I think there are some other candidates, but these again are the 8 games I think that are most likely to be upset. So give me your thoughts and who you think is going to be upset this week down in the comments below.